April 1945. Southern Germany. Late evening. General Patton was heading back to headquarters from a forward inspection run. His route cut past a field hospital, set up inside a requisitioned German schoolhouse. Dusk had settled maybe 20 minutes prior. His driver was about to roll right past the place. Then Patton spotted something near the entrance. Shapes on the ground. He ordered the jeep to stop, climbed out, walked closer. There were men lying outside the hospital, not seated, not resting, lying flat on blankets spread over bare dirt in the cold April air. He approached them, counted 14, all wearing American uniforms, all wounded, bandaged arms, bandaged legs, bandaged heads, blood seeping through gauze. Every single one of them, black soldiers. Patton turned toward the building behind them, lit up from inside. Through the windows he could see beds occupied by patients, medical staff circulating between them. White soldiers indoors, warm, attended to, medicated, in actual beds. Black soldiers outdoors, freezing, abandoned, lying in the mud with nothing. Patton crouched beside one of them. A corporal, leg wrapped in heavy bandaging. "Why are you out here, soldier?" The corporal looked up, saw 4 stars on the helmet above him. His eyes went wide. "Sir, they said the hospital is full, sir." Patton glanced at the building again, then back at the corporal. "Full of what?" The corporal faltered. "Patients, sir. White patients?" He didn't answer that. He didn't need to. Patton rose to his feet, looked across the other 13 men stretched out in the dirt. Wounded American soldiers fighting the same war, bleeding the same blood, and they were sleeping outside a functioning hospital with open beds because of the color of their skin. Patton turned to his driver. "Get the hospital commander out here, now." The driver sprinted into the building. Patton stayed. Stood with the 14 men in the cold, right beside them. What was coming next would be a reckoning. Before we go further, make sure you're subscribed. These are the stories of World War II, where the hardest fight wasn't against the enemy across the line. It was against the people wearing the same uniform. The hospital commander was Major William Hutchins, 12 years in the Army Medical Corps. He stepped outside, saw Patton standing over 14 black soldiers on the ground. Hutchins saluted. Patton did not return it. He pointed down at the men. "Major, why are these wounded soldiers lying outside your hospital?" Hutchins glanced at the men. Then back at the general. "Sir, the hospital is at capacity. We don't have beds available." Patton looked past him at the building. "How many beds do you have, Major?" 40, sir." "How many are occupied?" Hutchins paused a beat too long. 38, sir." Patton let that number hang in the air. 2 empty beds, 14 wounded men in the dirt. "Major, that's not a capacity problem. That's a decision." Hutchins opened his mouth to respond. Patton shut it down. "Don't explain, Major. Just answer one question. Are these men outside because they're black?" Hutchins stared at the ground. "Sir, we have a policy about integrating the wards." "A policy?" Patton closed the distance between them. "Major, I don't care about your policy. I care about wounded American soldiers receiving treatment. And right now I'm looking at 14 Americans who aren't getting it." He turned toward the hospital. Then back to Hutchins. "Here's what happens next. You bring every one of these 14 men inside, right now. You give them beds. You give them treatment. Everything the white soldiers inside are receiving, they receive." Hutchins pushed back. "Sir, some of the other patients, they won't accept being in the same ward as colored soldiers." Patton's voice dropped lower, quieter, more dangerous. A pause. Hutchins looked at the 14 men, then at Patton. Patton didn't blink. Then make room, discharge anyone who can walk, put 2 men to a bed if that's what it takes. I don't care how you get it done, but these 14 men will be indoors, warm, and receiving care within the next 10 minutes. He checked his watch. It's 7:30. At 7:40, I walk back through that door. If even one of these soldiers is still on the ground, you lose your command. Reassignment to a latrine detail. Are we clear? Major. Hutchins held Patton's gaze. Quote 22. Quote 23. Hutchins turned and sprinted back into the hospital. Patton looked down at the 14 men. Quote 24. Quote, one soldier, a private with a bandage wrapped around his head, spoke up. Quote 25. Patton fixed his eyes on him. Quote 26. He crouched closer to the private. Quote 27. Within 5 minutes, medical staff emerged carrying stretchers. One by one, the 14 men were lifted, placed carefully onto those stretchers, and carried through the doors. Patton watched every single one go in. When the last soldier disappeared inside, Patton followed. Inside, chaos. Beds were being shuffled, rearranged. White patients who could walk were being discharged. Others were being doubled up. And those 14 black soldiers were finally being given beds, blankets, actual medical care. Some white patients were visibly angry. One, a sergeant, arm hanging in a sling, marched up to Major Hutchins. Hutchins opened his mouth to respond. Patton stepped forward first. The sergeant's eyes locked onto the 4 stars on Patton's collar. The sergeant stared at the floor. The sergeant turned and walked away. Patton remained at that hospital for another 30 minutes. He made certain all 14 soldiers were settled, comfortable, and receiving proper treatment before he stepped outside. Then he pulled Major Hutchins aside. Hutchins nodded. Patton surveyed the hospital one final time. 14 black soldiers in beds, finally receiving the care they were owed. Then he walked out. Word of what Patton did that night travelled through the Third Army in days. Other hospitals across the Third Army's zone received the message loud and clear. Wounded black soldiers began getting admitted without hesitation. It wasn't perfect. Resistance lingered. Problems persisted. But something had cracked open. One of those 14 soldiers lying outside the hospital was Private Samuel Williams from Georgia. He'd taken a round through the shoulder during a firefight 2 days prior. Williams survived his wounds and returned home after the war. In 1982, a local newspaper interviewed him about his wartime experience. The reporter asked what memory stood out most. He said, "I remember lying on that frozen ground outside the hospital, thinking that after everything we'd been through, we still weren't good enough to be let inside. Then a 4-star general pulled up in his jeep, stepped out, and stood with us in the dirt until they opened those doors. That was the day I learned that some people with power actually give a damn." Williams passed away in 1995. He was 72 years old. His family donated his uniform and medals to a local museum. The museum built a display honoring his service, and part of that exhibit tells the story of the night he lay outside a hospital and a general stopped his vehicle. If you visit that museum in Georgia today, you can read Williams' own words about the moment someone with authority chose to use it for what was right. The hospital in southern Germany is gone now. The schoolhouse was handed back to the Germans after the war. But the story endures. 14 wounded black soldiers, lying in the dirt outside a hospital with empty beds inside, and a general who made certain they received what was owed to them. Put yourself in Major Hutchins' position that night. Do you follow the policy, or do you follow the general? Drop your answer in the comments. And if these stories resonate, the ones where somebody decided that doing right outweighed following orders. Hit subscribe.